Welcome to Join. My name's Mare Newton, and I'm a professional services consultant at Looker. So I actually work with a lot of customers when they're first getting started with the Looker product. And as part of that role, I tend to help with the implementation of a lot of those initial use cases. And one of those use cases that comes up quite frequently is this concept of customer retention or customer behavior analysis. So that's actually what I'm going to be talking about today. And I'm going to walk you through 3 different Looker blocks that we have that you can use to get started with this. And I'll show you how you can put this into action. So what do I mean when I say customer retention? Customer retention is really just the idea that customers will continue to come back to your company for a particular product or service, rather than maybe going to a competitor or stopping use of the product or service altogether. And there's different ways that you might try to attain customer retention. Something that we try to do at Looker that's really important is this concept of customer satisfaction. So how do we ensure that customers' expectations are met, or even better, exceeded over their time as a customer so that they continue to want to return? Another idea is this concept of promoting customer engagement. I probably have about 100 unread emails in my personal Gmail right now of different companies that are offering me 20% off this, 30% off that. And they're all just trying to engage with me so that I come and I make a purchase or I participate in a service. And then finally, there's this idea of brand or company loyalty programs. So if you think of airlines, some of you probably traveled here today on a particular airline. Maybe you have a favorite. Probably because they have loyalty programs. They offer you miles when you fly. So you have this incentive down the road, and you can actually attain free travel, maybe by being loyal to a particular carrier. But why would we bother with these types of programs? Why bother retaining customers? Well, a big reason is that it's actually more expensive to go out and find new customers than it is to retain the customers that you have. This doesn't mean that you don't go out and grow your customer base, but it shouldn't be done at the expense of the customers that you already have. Another big reason is that customers that repeat their business with you, they tend to be more valuable in the long run than those one-and-done single-deal customers. And finally, customers that continue to come back, they have a higher probability of selling new products, upsell opportunities, than customers that maybe aren't familiar with you and your business. And all of this ultimately leads to higher profits and a better bottom line. So how do we go about exploring customer information and looking at customer retention in Looker? And the key thing here with customer retention is to explore this concept of cohorts. And cohorts are effectively groups of customers that are paired together based on some sort of shared attribute across those customers. It's going to be really difficult to look at customers one by one. So what we're really trying to analyze here is patterns in behavior across these different cohorts or customer groupings. And we can group customers in a lot of different ways. We can look at customers based on when they signed up for our product or service. We can look at them based on how they found us, their referral source or marketing channel. Even something simple like demographic information, maybe age, location. And we take those groups and we pair that with some sort of customer activity measure. So in our case today, we're going to be exploring e-commerce data. So we'll be looking at purchase behavior as part of that activity. But this could be anything: logins, survey responses, any sort of customer engagement measure. So let's start simple, and let's start with a very basic explore and try to answer a question. And that question is going to be, what percentage of our customers remain active after they've signed up with our website? And again, we're looking at fake e-commerce data with a website. Some of you might be familiar with Fashionly. That's our demo website. So let's take a look at how we can solve that type of question in Looker. I'm going to switch over and open up an Explorer here. I think everyone can see that. And the Explorer that I've opened is very straightforward. It takes my customer information and it pairs it with my order information, that fact data that I mentioned, and some product information. So to get started, the first thing that I want to look at is my general customer activity. So when are my customers placing orders? How many customers are placing orders in each month? So I'll pull in my order created month, when that order was placed. And then I'll pair with that just a count of my customers so that I can see how many customers placed orders in any given month. And I'll just hit run so that we can see those numbers. Now to bring in my cohort, which in this case, I want to see cohorts based on when a customer actually signed up on my website. So for that, I'm going to look at my customer sign up month or created month. And anytime, yep, let me do that. There we go. Is that better? One more. There we go. So anytime I'm working with customer cohorts, I want to put that cohort onto my pivot. So I'll go into my customer created month, and I'll pivot my data, and I'll hit run. And what this will show me now is actually for every month in which a customer signed up, how many of those customers were then active in subsequent months. And this is interesting, but because I have a different number of customers signing up every month, I actually can't get a ton of information by comparing these cohorts because they're not normalized. So what I need to do here is actually find the percentage of each cohort that's active in my subsequent months. So I need to take the numbers that I see here and I need to divide that by the total number of people that I have in each of my cohorts of interest. So I'll start out by just adding a total into my query. And what that total does is it actually runs as a separate query behind the scenes in Looker so that I can see the number of people in each cohort, not respective of whether they've placed orders. It's just that total number that I'm looking for the denominator in my percentage calculation. And so from there, I can use a simple table calculation, and we'll call this percent of my cohort that's active. And I'll simply take that user or customer count, and I'll divide that by my total that I've now brought into my query. I can format that as a percentage and hit save. And now I have that percentage that I can actually use to start to draw insight across my different cohorts. And if I open up my visualization, I can actually just hide. Let me do that from here. I can hide this count from my visualization. I really just want to see those percentages for comparison purposes. And a traditional way to view this would be as a line chart. So if I switch over to a line chart, I can clear out some of the noise here by removing those plotted null values. And what I'm left with is a very traditional cohort type chart. And I can see some patterns in behavior. I see really high levels of activity in that initial sign-up month, probably because my users sign up around the same time that they're placing that first order. And then I see that activity dip down in the second month to around 30% or so. And then I continue to see a bit of a decline from there. So this gives me some general insight into overall customer behavior. And it might help me to detect some key outliers that might exist. And the really nice thing about this is that I didn't have to do any sort of modeling. I was able to dive into the data that I already had and just start to build and play with it a little bit to see if I could find anything interesting. All I needed was that very straightforward user or customer table, and then some sort of fact table that had that behavior that I wanted to analyze. But what happens when I have harder questions? I want to dig a little bit deeper into this cohort concept. Maybe I have different groupings of customers that I want to look at. I want to see customers based on their overall lifetime value, the latest time that they ordered, products that they've purchased. Maybe I have more challenging questions that I want to answer, some actionable information that I'm looking for. Let's say that I have several customers who were great customers, but maybe they haven't been active in the last 6 to 12 months. Those could be people that I want to target to re-engage. So how do we find that type of information? A good first step is to create something like a customer or user fact table. And all this really does is it takes that fact information, in our case, order information, and we aggregate it up to a customer level of granularity so that we have a record for every single customer in our table, and we can use some basic SQL functions like max and min in order to find a customer's first order date, their latest order date, maybe their total lifetime value as a customer. And by doing this, we can then add some additional LookML dimensions and measures on top of that. We can use tiers, which are ways of grouping into different data buckets, perfect for cohort analysis. We can even do further aggregations, maybe look at average lifetime value across customers. So in Looker, that looks something like this. We use what we call a derived table, and that derived table, it can be ephemeral or it can be persisted. And all we do is we write some basic SQL to aggregate that fact data up to a customer level. And then we have a few dimension examples and measure examples that you would be able to build on top of that derived table. So we have a tier example for our customer lifetime orders. How many times has a customer placed an order over the course of their lifetime? And then we have those additional measures like total lifetime value, average lifetime value for customers. So how do we then go ahead and start using this within Looker? I'll jump back into an Explore, and this is going to look very familiar. It'll be the same Explore that I had last time, except that I've integrated this customer fact table that I just showed you. And so now, if I wanted to maybe identify those customers that were great customers but haven't been back lately, I can use some of those fields that I just pulled together in that fact table. So in this case, I'd like to start by seeing the distribution of my customers based on when they've last placed an order. So I'll pull in my latest order month, and this is from that fact table. And then I'll go back into my normal customers table, and I'll just pull in that user count that we looked at last time. And when I hit run, I'll be able to see in my visual here, I'll make this a column chart. And now I can see the distribution of my customers based on when they've most recently placed an order. And I can use this to then incorporate some sort of grouping, that cohort concept that we've been talking about. And in this case, I again want to go into that fact table and use one of those tiers that I set up. So I'll use that lifetime orders tier. Which of my customers have placed a lot of orders but haven't been active lately? So I'll put that on the pivot like I normally would with my cohort groups, and I'll hit run. And just to make this easier to see, I'll change this to a stacked bar. And I can already see from here that there's quite a few people in this light blue and purple color who have placed 5 to 9 orders or 10 plus orders with my company, but they haven't been active lately. They haven't been active maybe in the last 12 months or so. So I'm looking right now at these high volume customers, and I can even go a step further and look at, hey, which of these customers are really high value to me? I have this lifetime revenue value that I've calculated in my table. So I can even add that as a filter, and I can focus in not just on how many orders customers have placed, but I can look at customers that have also spent maybe over $1,000. So I'm now pairing that concept of high value with high volume. And I'm able to see a more focused image of specific customer groupings that may be good to target, to re-engage, to bring them back. Specifically, it looks like I have several customers maybe from last summer that were very active and they haven't been back. With Looker, I can click into that bar segment, and I can actually show all of the customers that fall into that group. I can access those emails. I can reach out to them directly, find out what happened. Or with a simple data action, I can even email them right from here, some sort of promotion to try to re-engage. If that's not actionable, I don't know what is. Now, everything that we've been talking about so far focuses on customer behavior in periods in which they're active. But true retention analysis requires us to look not just at when a customer is active, when they're doing some sort of behavior that you're interested in, but also in those periods of time when they're not active. So we need to take things a step further. And we need to take that customer fact table that we were just talking about, and we actually need to expand that out a little bit so that instead of just aggregating all of our customer information to that customer level, instead of just having a line in that table for every customer, we now need a line in that table for every customer and every month since they've signed up with our website, with our product, with our store. And so that looks like the second table over here, where we actually have for every customer, every single month, including months where they were not active with us. And that looks something like this in Looker. I know it's small, don't worry, it's in our blocks, so you can absolutely get this from our blocks directory to start working with it yourself. But what this allows us to do is to, again, build on this table with some custom dimensions and measures, particularly down at the bottom, a % of cohort active. Now, we looked at this in our very first example, but now we're able to calculate it in the model, which does two things for us. It allows us to centralize that calculation so that we have one version of the truth for everybody doing this analysis in our company. And it also allows us to take this concept and apply it to different cohorts, not just that sign-up month that we first looked at. So let's take a look at this one in action as well. I'm opening up a new Explore, and again, we're continuing to build off of what we've been doing. So it's the same Explore that we had, but we've integrated this customer retention table. And I'll open that up, and instead of using sign-up month, like we did in the first example, I'm going to use a more relative field, which is months since sign-up. And this is just a date difference from the current month to when a customer first signed up. And I'll pair with that the % of my cohort that's active. And if I run that right away without incorporating an additional cohort or group, my visualization will show me a pretty traditional retention curve. And it tells the same story as what I had in that very first example. We have high levels of activity at the very beginning. It dips down to about 30% or so, and then continues to decline beyond that. But how can I use this to then compare across different types of groups? Let's go back to that order tier, that lifetime order tier that we used in our customer facts table, and let's bring that in as our cohort. So I'll put that on the pivot. So again, that's going to be our cohort. And when I run this, we'll now be able to see retention curves for each of those customer groupings based on how many times they've ordered with us. And I can see some interesting things start to unfold here. For customers who have ordered maybe 10 or more times, they have about a 50% level of activity through their first year or so. And then that starts to decline. So maybe I should consider some sort of brand loyalty program in order to try to incentivize those people to continue to be active with my company, to continue to order after that year point. And I can see customers who have ordered maybe 3 to 4 times, there seems to be a decline that starts around 3 to 4 months in. Maybe I target them with a different type of promotional campaign with our marketing department. So I can start to see additional information here, and I can start to use that to drive some of the policies and programs that I want to put into place. Now, we've talked a lot about cohort analysis and things that you can do with it. And we've focused on e-commerce data. But like I've mentioned, this applies across a ton of different industries. Anytime you're looking at customers or users and some sort of behavior, this sort of analysis will be applicable. And it's quite easy to get started. Get started just like we did today. Start simple. Build something with the data that you already have. Explore what you already have. And depending on what you see, ask your next question. answer that question by building what you need to get to that answer. Continue to build from there. And most importantly, keep asking. Thank you.